It's because it takes away the right to state your opinion in your own private lane about how you feel about Israel. Like, whether you want to boycott their products, divest from them, and push for sanctions on them. Like, that's something that should be up to you. You could do that with any other country, and it shouldn't be a problem. Why should it be a problem with Israel? I just don't get it. So the bill would allow state and local governments to break ties again with companies that support the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. Backers of BDS, including Tlaib and Omar, argue that the economic boycotts are protected, again, as I said before, by the constitutional right to free speech, but the opponents assist the movement's true goal is to destroy Israel as a Jewish state. It's incredibly rough to see that happen. These people's words just get twisted and manipulated just anew over and over again. So another interesting aspect to the situation is the Democratic response, where a quote from Youssef Manouar, who's the executive director of the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights, critics of saying, quote, "I see this as an Islamophobic attack against two outspoken women of color who are shaking things up boldly by standing for crucial issues. Palestine is increasingly becoming part of the progressive politics of justice for all." And I think that's a very important point. And this is so interesting, and I think it's going to be very important to see how in the next few years, it's not just going to be Israel, Israel, Israel. Like, that's the only narrative in town. That's not going to be the only game in town, I think, by the end of a few days, by the end of a few years. Like, once we get more of these people coming in here. But again, I don't think it's going to, this whole dispute is going to catch a lot of people up, because I have a hard time believing that Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib are going to say something that's outright anti-Semitic, and they're probably just going to say a lot of stuff that's anti-Israel. Which is, again, not anti-Semitic. And I don't think that criticism of Israel really resonates with the broad base of American people. Criticism, for example, Social Security, that may resonate a little bit more now. So that is the situation that's going on there. Both women are under fire, but defenders of the women warn that their critics are entering a dangerous territory by conflating anti-Zionism, hostility towards Israel as a Jewish state, with anti-Semitism, hostility towards Jews, a trend Jeremy Ben-Ami, president of J Street, the liberal Jewish advocacy group, said he found disturbing. J Street did not endorse Ms. Omar and rescinded its endorsement of Tlaib after she declined to publicly support a two-state solution with Israel and Palestine, a Palestinian state existing side by side. Again, I think that's going to be a very, very hard solution to occur, especially after the actions of Bibi Netanyahu in conjunction with Donald Trump. But I mean, personally, I think it's probably the best and most fair option to kind of reduce conflict. A two-state solution, again, at the very minimum. But still, the fact is, a two-state solution to the left, I think, and anything to the left, I think, is something that is very, at this point, acceptable. But to the right is the only place that we seem to go in this issue, because the only people who care about it are, in fact, on the right. But I think that's going to change over the next few years, for sure. They're hardly the only Democrats to express support for the rights of Palestinians. Betty McCollum, Democrat of Minnesota, which is a pretty heavily Muslim area as well, has gathered 31 co-sponsors for a bill that will bar taxpayer funds from going to the Israeli military detention of children. So shout out to Betty McCollum there for actually pulling that string. Air horn to her, because the fact that we pay money to the IDF for detention of children is ridiculous. Israeli military detention of children, that's obviously going to stop. On the other hand, Tlaib is a lawyer, former state legislature, said during her campaign she would absolutely vote against military aid to Israel. She also said she would be open to a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestinian conflict that would create a single West Bank, a position that would fear some would fear erode Israel as a Jewish homeland. But here's the thing: Palestinians have their homeland as pretty much an open-air prison that's going to be uninhabitable a few years, according to the UN. So I think they have a little bit more of a legitimate grievance than you, who has one of the most wealthy, well-supported states out there in the Middle East. So, you're looking at contrast, who has the better fear of eroding? The country, the more legitimate fear of eroding? The country that is actually eroding right now, or the piece of land? I guess you could probably even call it a country anymore. But the piece of land that is eroding right now in Palestine, which is literally becoming pretty much an open-air prison by direct actions of Israel, or the well-supported, well-funded, well-backed Israel that, by the way, does, in fact, have nuclear weapons. So, yeah, I really don't see Israel as any kind of threat anytime soon. So, yeah, she believes the solution to the Israel-Palestinian conflict should be up to the people who live there, not Americans, according to her office. That's Tlaib's take on it. Senator Marco Rubio, Republican of Florida, spot back, saying this dual loyalty canard is a typical anti-Semitic line. That's a very big stretch there from Rubio, throwing out claims like that. Just, that's something that just makes you want to puke in your mouth, hearing something like that. The lead sponsor of this bill that would, believe the Senate Bill 1, SB 1, I think is what it is. I don't know what that means. Dual loyalty, BDS, and all that stuff. Yeah. So that's another situation going on there. Tlaib said her comments were not aimed at Jews. The anti-BDS legislation was written by Senators Rubio and Joe Manchin, Democrat of West Virginia. Neither is Jewish. Tlaib is also facing harsh criticism from conservatives and other Jewish media groups, as well as the Israeli press, for comments and some media postings of her supporters. Criticism, she said in her statement, it was unfair. So that is... Again, there's a lot of strong, especially on the left wing, there are a lot of strong positions pro-Palestine, and that is something that is going to become a lot more mainstream in the future. So, this article broadly, though, does not acknowledge, is pretty much a talking point list for all the people who have criticized Ilhan Omar and Rashid Tlaib on Israel. Like, all the list of people who criticized, all the people from Washington who criticized, none of the representation on the other side, or what they're actually saying here, except for that we support a two-state solution or not, or whatever. So that is the very, very strange and very disturbing that we continue to see this kind of just ridiculous trope that stands really in the way of Palestinians ever getting rights, or ever getting a suitable country to live in, it's really disturbing. That we still have this kind of a continuing back and forth about this. It's really, really disgusting. So, all right. Anyway, following a week, this is before we move on here. The following week of being accused of anti-Semitism by GOP Representative Lee Zeldin of New York, a man who called their appointment to the House Foreign Affairs Committee crazy. Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar extended an invitation to Zeldin to talk about religious discrimination over Somali tea, even though this guy seems like a pretty unreasonable a-hole whom you would not want to share a hot beverage with in any capacity. Zeldin, who happens to be Jewish, tweeted a voicemail left at his office of a man calling Jews maggots and bloodsuckers, obviously, directly at Omar, expressing that this is just another day in my world as an American Jew, as if Omar... She, again, no idea what discrimination, no idea what getting a nasty voice message, as literally one of the first 2 Muslim Americans ever to be elected in Congress. Like, she was sworn in a freaking hijab. Do you think she does not face... It's smooth sailing for her. Conservatives here, like, she's wearing the ISIS symbol, and, like, literally attack. Like, that is... Again, really kind of arrogant for him to take that approach, but still, that voicemail you can go into his Twitter account and listen to. I'm not sure if I want to go and play that over there. And Omar responded in a pretty perfect way, in my opinion. This is heinous and hateful. First statement. Very good. I, too, am flooded with bigoted voicemails and calls every day. And by the way, I think it would be a much more different scenario if the person said, I'm supporting Ilhan Omar, or made some reference to Ilhan Omar, because... that would, again, tie it more to her, and she'd have a little bit more to answer to. But the fact that she is being looped in with these anti-Semitic people just because she wants to see Palestinians get some basic rights and have a country to live in that's not, like, starving, dying, getting bombed out every day, it's so anti-Semitic. It's literally anti-Semitic to these people. That's what it is. So that's where we're at right now. So Zeldin accepted, by the way, albeit in a characteristically kind of asshole, grandstanding fashion, asking her to back a resolution rejecting anti-Israel and anti-Semitic hatred in the United States and around the world. The text of the resolution announces statements made by both Omar and Rashida Tlaib, so that's not going to help them. And, by the way, also equates them with Richard Spencer and black nationalist Louis Farrakhan. So, very, very chilling stuff. Like the fact that this is the smear that is going on around people who just want to see a country get respected. Zeldin said, let's do that. Are you sure you disagree with everything said in that voicemail? I sure do, and it would be great as if you, it would be great if you did as well and co-sponsored and helped pass HRES 72. That would be a step in the right direction. Okay, so, here's what's a step in the right direction, buddy. Here we acknowledge that there are two sides to the story, that Palestine is facing incredible problems. They're facing incredible, they're the ones who have, they're in the back front. And the fact that they're on their back foot, they're the ones who are in trouble right now. I don't think Israel is, really, I don't think Israel is the one out of the two who's in the weaker position. It's hard to make that equate that statement. Like the people in trouble. Sure, there's a bunch of anti-Semitic hate from Louis Farrakhan and from Richard Spencer, and a large majority of that anti-Semitic hate again is coming from Steve King on the right wing. So, that is, and the fact that he's saying that are you sure you're saying, normally people, when they say something is heinous and hateful, they don't agree with the thing that is in the voicemail, Lee Zeldin. I hope you understand that, bud. So, that is, first off, let's get that out of the way. But secondly, this episode has been really pretty much going around all week. Zeldin took the first shot on Tuesday, where he tweeted about that he found it crazy to watch what House Dems are empowering/elevating following Omar's appointment to the Oversight Committee. And after being called out for being Islamophobic, Zeldin continued to call Omar anti-Semitic and anti-Israel. Again, there's a big difference, but he thinks they're the same thing. And the two traded shots on Twitter. So, Lee Zeldin said that after... and then Ilhan Omar responded, quote, "Don't mind him. He's just waking up to the reality of having Muslim women as colleagues who know how to stand up to bullies. It's going to be fun watching him lose his marbles." Then Zeldin responds, "These poor innocent ISIS fighters and Palestinian terrorists, right? Give me a break." That's a problem. No matter your religion or gender, Ilhan, your anti-Semitic anti-Israel hate is strong and wrong. Those terrorists have U.S. blood on their hands as well. So, again, so much loaded language, so much like absolute smearing here going on the part of Lee Zeldin, and the fact that saying, she supports terrorists, she supports literally, and again, my favorite thing is not him, but someone else told, I think Rashida Tlaib, to listen and learn on Palestine. Because what Rashida Tlaib was doing, and this again is a very admirable thing to do, is she organized her own trip, because every year AIPAC, which is a very incredibly powerful pro-Jewish lobby in America, it's something that everyone from Chuck Schumer to Mitch McConnell all give their 100% support behind. They organize a trip to pretty much indoctrinate freshman congressmen into being ridiculously pro-Israel for the rest of their lives. And what Rashida Tlaib is doing is someone who's, as a Palestinian, sworn in Palestinian garb, was like, okay, why don't I organize a trip to Palestine to show the other side of the story for freshman members who are interested? And Elliot Engel, the leader of the Foreign Affairs Committee or whatever it is like, she needs to listen and learn on the idea of Palestine. No! You should do a lot of listening and learning from her and get an actual stance on the issue, which is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous stuff. So, Zeldin still here continues to push the narrative that Omar doesn't denounce anti-Semitism or find the behavior ugly or offensive. But it still is important to realize that Omar has recently apologized for using anti-Semitic language in 2012 tweet about Israel, which is referenced, and again in this resolution, which is Lee Zeldin wants her to pass a resolution that's like, everything I said was wrong. So it's ridiculous. That's referenced in the resolution. She apologized for it. Omar said that she didn't know the word portrayed an anti-Semitic trope at the time, and called her usage of the word offensive. and unfortunate and offensive. So yeah, that is pretty much what she was trying to say. Saying Israel has hypnotized our world. That's what the thing is, to carry out evil.